Another Founder Wisdom Pod, guys, with Guillaume Gosse is with us today. He's a real estate developer. He's also an investor. He's driven by sustainable transition of urban areas. We're going to talk about smart cities, NEOM. His company is Lastlink, so he co-founded that about a year ago. We're going to talk about this as well. Guillaume, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and a bit more about Lastlink?
Hello, Charles. Nice to see you. Yes, absolutely. So I started Lastlink 1 year ago, after a little bit more than 10 years in real estate development, mainly based in Brussels, Belgium. I did that since the end of my studies, and in fact, I love real estate development, and I still love it. But I think we can do more for cities and for the transition and sustainable transition of cities and urban areas. After 10 years with my co-founder, which is Julien Van der Leen, which is busy with other stuff linked to urban areas as well, we came to the conclusion that was on the top of the agenda of the mayor of a lot of cities in Europe and in the Occidental world. In the top three, we could find the concept of 15-minute cities. And why is that concept so important? To be able to make the shift to a sustainable world, we have to attract and to have more people back into the cities, because the impact of one citizen is much smaller in cities than outside. Because if you have a full facade house, if you need to commute with your car 15 minutes every day, and 15 minutes, it could be much more than that, you have much more negative impact than if you live within a 15-minute neighborhood. And for this reason, and to be able to make that shift, we need to have a lot of services, new services inside the cities, like recreative activities, like mobility hub, to make the maintenance and the charging of all the steps, the electric bicycle and so on. You need to have all the facility and last mile delivery hub inside the cities to offer much more quality and much more services to urban citizens. To let those people start their own activity, you need to get the infrastructure ready for them. And that's the missing link and the missing point. And definitely in Europe, where we have very old cities. And what we try to do at Lastlink, we buy very old, undervalued, and empty old industrial places in all the cities. We make a full renovation, full sustainable transition, new installation, solar cells on the roof. We make them brand new, healthy, and flexible, and we rent them out to all the players of the 15-minute cities concept. That's in a nutshell.
So you rent it to who exactly?
All kind of startup. For instance, you have all the dark kitchen, the dark store like Gloria's, GoPuff, and so on. That's for the fast retailing. We rent them out to a parking operator. I don't know, like Indigo, which is one of the world leader. We can rent them to citizens just to park their car. We can rent them to Lime, to other steps and bike operator just to make the maintenance, to charge their car. We can rent them to Amazon if they want a last mile delivery up inside the cities. That's the kind of contact and the kind of partner we try to have.
Love it. That's kind of cool. So it's like the old real estate model. You apply the smart city concept to it so that there's everything in vicinity, and you rent it at probably a higher price to these big brands, most likely, because I don't think a smaller brand would have the budget to rent that kind of space. Or do you separate the lease, the place, and you sublease to micro businesses?
That depends on the size of the site. From time to time, we can split it out if the city is very big. But mostly we have one tenant for each site. We do not target very high prices, because the kind of assets we buy are the one that all the other one doesn't want, because we have some kind of asbestos problem, we have ground pollution, we have a lot of huge capex to make because the buildings are quite high. And we try to be specialist and professional in what the other one, where they doesn't see value. That's a kind of things. And also we fully think about the strategy of the location, and we try not to have the same kind of discussion as traditional landlord. We let the tenant choose the type of contract he wants, the length, the modality. We discuss a general equilibrium, but we are much more involved in all the procedure when they want to open. Because a very easy example, traditional landlord just let the tenant get all the authorization, building permit, environmental permit, and so on. But at the end of the journey, if they didn't receive those kind of authorization, everybody is stuck. And we try to help our tenants with our key of success, with our know-how experience, to make all those administrative path faster and much more efficient. And that's a kind of, I think, added value that Lastlink want to bring to the tenants, and try to be very different from traditional investor.
Right. Okay, I understand. And what do you think is like the future of smart cities? Because that's in Europe. Like we've seen the Neon project in Saudi. They're building this line, and apparently everything will be in that wall. There will be very fast traveling. Everything will be accessible by foot, so no cars. So yeah, no noise, no risk of getting hitting by one, no pollution, obviously. So what are your thoughts on that project, and how could Europe reproduce that with its historical business, the historical neighborhoods, architecture, and street or city mapping engineering, which dates like centuries and century back?
So about those kind of projects, that's definitely something which is very interesting for us to study and to follow, because that kind of from scratch project that you can also have in North America, for instance, because there are a lot of huge spaces. We definitely don't have that choice and that chance in Europe, because it's much more crowded. All the distances are much smaller, but we definitely have to change our way of living, of working, and just commuting all together. For the future, we have to change the mindset of the people. That's the most difficult, because if you want people to change their mindset, you have to offer them a solution, and they will always choose for more comfortable cities, much more comfortable lives. So instead of obliging them to by giving some fine, making everything difficult, I'm more the kind of person who think that if you offer proper and easier solution for them, they will make rational choices to move back in cities, because we want to make their life easier, faster, and at the end of the journey, more sustainable.
Right. Okay, so when we talk about the future of real estate and smart cities, we talk about saving time, we talk about saving energy on the citizens front. When it comes to the real estate developer, like my question as a capitalist is, how could I make more money, right? We are seeing a crisis right now in the commercial real estate sector. How do you think this will, well, first, is it widespread to Europe? Because I've been seeing it in the US. What are your predictions / projections when it comes to that crisis? Because my view has always been that commercial real estate is an industry of the past, you know, like people will work from their own home and that's it. They won't have like an office and you know, like a place to live. Both will be intertwined. So what do you think about that? What do you think about the ongoing crisis that is? And then I'll follow up with like if I would be like a commercial real estate guy, how could I make more money? We can talk about innovation with that. But let's start with the crisis first. Like, do you feel it in Europe? And do you feel it will affect you in the upcoming year?
Definitely, I think we are in the same kind of situation in Europe. From country to country and cities to cities, the impact is a bit different. For instance, Paris and London are up to now much more impacted than Brussels, but it's mathematic. It's linked to the rise of interest rate, of the inflation, and so on. So far, as you have all the yield going up, you have all the mathematical value of the real estate going down. So far, just investor and landlord are just blocking everything because they do not want to face the fact that the price are going down. And if they can block long enough, they will not be obliged to cut the prices. I think Europe and Belgium definitely are very stable markets. So we do not have a lot of volatility. That does mean that we will not have like big real estate crisis, but on the other hand, we never have like huge rise in prices. That's on the one point. Regarding like remote and working from home, I think there are different point of view. I think the old way where you are living outside the city, you are commuting every day between half an hour, 1 hour in your car, maybe just by public transport to go to the office every day is definitely over, because that's a huge loss of time for everybody, and we don't need that at all. But on the other hand, I'm also a believer that people need for some kind of business, but people need to go at the office because it could bring a bit of structure for them. Staying always at home when you have your kids, when you have like a cut, you need a cut in some situation. You are at the office, you are at home at the end of the day, and it could also be a benefit for the people. But I think we have now the chance to choose what we need, and people, if they want to stay in the countryside and work fully remotely, it's completely acceptable. If they are a bit more traditional, they want to go at the office, it's also possible. So I think there will be multiple in the future. There will be multiple solutions, but people going and commuting every day, very long journey to go at the office, that's completely over. I agree with you.
Right. I can see the future, like not necessarily talking VR, but just AR, in which you work in a room of your house and it's like very worky environment with noises, with the visuals as well. And as soon as you press the button, well, it becomes this warm and personal and friendly environment to remind you that you're no longer at work. I think that's mostly what the brain needs, or have some kind of brain shower, to 5-10 minute meditation breath work to transit into your personal life and change kind of your personality and how you react, and you're not this cold human being anymore. But I do think that in work as well, the trends are that you are bringing your full and whole self to work nowadays. It's not like a professional version of yourself, it's like your full self. I do think that stress will also diminish with time, if we have the right technology. Right now, the trend is not so. It's like people are stuck to their devices and so forth. But I do think that there's going to be more and more techs, like, for example, the Apple screen time and so forth, that are going to have your personality resemble more the personal one. Now to my question about making more money, I think you're on track. Like your pinpoint right on, like with the sustainability. Not only is that pleasing the regulators, but it's also pleasing the minds of your customers. And I do think you're targeting exactly the right type of customers. Amazon warehouses, that's the future. These businesses don't really have a choice. They're logistical businesses. They are moving physical items. Obviously, I mean that there could be restaurants in there, but yeah, restaurants business are like so unstable. So you're choosing really stable customers. Another one that you mentioned is Cloud Kitchen. That, again, that's genius. I do think that these companies will very much need your real estate. But then if we can think about more innovative ways of making money. You mentioned another one, which is flexible contract, but could we think about flexible or more innovative payment terms? For example, pay-per-use. The more heavily you use the facilities, the more you're charged. Or one that I thought not so long ago in my case would be that I would rent out some space to some startups and I would take equity in them, instead of charging them rent. I'd just take 10 to 20% equity in them. What other innovative payment terms could we have as real estate developers to make better money?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure I have an answer for that, because we try to maintain a easy, understandable business, because it's when you start something which is a bit of innovative, it's already difficult enough to explain what you try to do. To add other layer of difficulties for the future, definitely we could bring and think about new solutions. But so far, about the payment, it remained quite traditional, and we also observe that the tenant, they do not want to share that much the profit and the risk, because to be able to make that, you need to get to know each other in much more detail. On that sense, it's interesting because what we try to do is not just to make a one deal with the company. We really want to be partner with our tenants. So we would like to help them to open other locations. For instance, for Gorillas, which was really booming 2 years ago, we opened the first facility in Brussels, Belgium. We had two other projects in the pipe that we had to stop because their growth came to an end, definitely in Belgium. But it's really what we try to do for payment. Oh, that's a good question. I have to think about that. That's one of my few takeaways.
I have 3 ideas for you. Okay, the first one is you have costs, right, to maintain the building. I don't know, hire a janitor to clean out the facilities, hire this guy to paint this wall. Maybe the entrepreneurs that, if it's like cloud kitchen styles, you'd have like a variety of entrepreneurs with a variety of skills. Maybe one of your costs is marketing, right? So you would have all of these, and the entrepreneurs, if you go cloud kitchen style and you have like 50 in one building, well, they could contribute to this and save on rent. That could be one model. Another one that is always like low-hanging fruit in the fintech world is to have smaller payments. So instead of monthly is always challenging because they need to save up, and so forth. Well, it would be weekly, for example. And my third idea is also related to that. It would be, and that is somewhat copied from cloud kitchens. You would have your building and you would have your own POS, and say that you have many small entrepreneurs. They all use your POS. And instead of charging them a rent, you charge them 1% of all the payments that goes through their facility. So if they receive orders from food, so like rent is free, right? And you get 1% out of their monthly 5k euro revenue, which is 500 euro. And that's really convenient for them. It's like, okay, I don't bother. I don't have to stress, but they have to maintain some KPIs, right? And that again would be even more innovative. You'd be like more than this commercial real estate. You'd be kind of their partner as well, and you'd give them coaching. Okay, have you done that? Have you done this? Obviously, I think the caveat to that, the asterisk, would be that they would need top filtering. You wouldn't accept any kind of entrepreneur, right? Because if the guy is new and he's generating 25 euros this month, and yeah, like there's opportunity cost, right? So these are a couple of ideas. What do you think?
No, that sounds very interesting, and I think at the end of the journey we could even, because it's also a question of profitability, we
Yeah.
could improve our financials, because you are much more attractive, because there will less entry barriers to this guy just hesitating between a new facility, hesitating to move. And that's one of the consequences we observe now in the a bit shaky real estate commercial market. People are taking much more longer to take decision.
Yeah.
So That's very interesting.
Yeah, one last one that is somewhat copied from WeWork. WeWork, their goal, so they failed, right? But their goal was quite ambitious with Adam Newman. It was to have this social media in the back end, and every entrepreneur could connect with one another and help one another, just like a Kibbutz, I believe it's called, which Adam Newman grew up in Israel, which is this community, this tight-knit community. So you could, and this is also synonym with an ecosystem. Like me, on a daily basis, I'm trying to build an agency ecosystem, a recruitment agency, software agency, sales agency, and they would all help one another to create this, in nature, they call it biosynthesis or biosynchronicity, which is like the tree helping the vines around it, and vice versa, and the ants helping, and everyone collaborating with one another, and you create like extra value from that. So you would select companies that are more likely to help one another. That could be like a plus value to just have them in and to thrive as company. That could be also a cool thing. So to have, additionally to your POS, you would have this software in which people can kind of interconnect and interchange. So there's this marketing guy that would help with the cards, and you could even have your own currency, right? It's like this small community. Anyway, so I mean, all of these concepts are kind of moonshots because they're super complicated to implement, but I think you're definitely like point on when it comes to sustainability, just the beauty of the buildings that you're buying, the architecture, like that's really basic, right? Like people want beautiful things. Like me, I like views also, and if I can have a window on nature, like my productivity will increase. So I think that's super cool what you're doing, Guillaume. Where can people find out more about you guys?
Excuse me?
Where can people find out more about you guys? So your website, your LinkedIn.
Yes, they could definitely reach me through LinkedIn, and they can go on our website. It's like lastlink.eu, which is very easy to reach. No, but it was very interesting to share some ideas with you. And what you say just before sounds really interesting for us, because so far, as we are a very new company, Lastlink so far doesn't need a very strong name, and we would like to bring that kind of value. We want Lastlink to be recognized for tenants as something which reduce the risk to start their business, that can help them to achieve their own goals, and that's really what we're looking for. Another, maybe one last things, we are starting this month a long-term partnership with the AI company.
Nice.
There are multiple in Belgium, but we really would like to use that kind of very interesting information for two type for two elements of our business. Is a prospection activity. You can now make the mapping through all cities to see which are the free in bad state, old parking lot, and so on, that we could automatically report in some list and make the prospection of the site. And on the other hand, we can really grab and have much more information in the direction of the decision-making process for the company, and so reduce our risk layer as well, which is
Love
for
it,
me
man.
really interesting.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much for coming in.